Hello everyone. Some sad story written by Bharat, aka myself. Dear PDF lovers, find the link in the description and have fun. Chapter 4 Broken, Shattered. A fawn, shielded from the calamitous fates and fateful missteps of the coarse jungle life, enjoys its pastimes within the benign boundaries of fun, thinking the world is comprised of nothing but that, until the low-pitched, blood-freezing roar of an alpha beast arrives and introduces its eyes to a foe named Fear. Paige experienced a similar shift from a melodious sight to malignant fright in an instant. It wasn't a piece of garbage to be thrown and taken lightly. It was worry. The flame of worry can melt the fiercest of fighters. Until quenched by the river of relief, the flame consumes the unconditioned mind and fortified flesh. She listened to what her dad read from the newspaper clearly without distractions like external hissing and missing words. He precisely uttered what was written, no blunders on his side, no mispronunciation on his part. There existed not a reason for confusion, but reasons for concern were abundant. Her mind didn't permit her concern to fade. When the mind chose to relax, the heart intervened and refused. When the heart seemed to cease rage, the effervescence of the past could not be arrested. A single wart of worry could be prickly if the skin had been soaked in affectionate exchanges. What Paige heard wasn't a word or a phrase. A water drop doesn't scare off anyone. A multitude of drops create sufficient space to suspect rainfall. What if the rain was heavy? What if it lashed thunderously? What if it was too unimaginably deadly and shook the foundations of a town's survival? What if there was death? What if the name, age, and town that Gary read weren't coincidental? Dad, what did you read? Come again?
It's the wretched last page. Who even needs this news? Let me get you some milk. Better yet, I'll make it Horlicks.
He folded the newspaper. Dad, can you read that name again?
I read it just now. Leave that and get some air. Isn't it hot like an oven in here?
Said Gary, who attempted to distract her after reading the lines of sweat and veins of bother on her face. He lacked the heart to see Paige tear up if the incident, the casualty, the name of the victim was confirmed to be who she feared it was. The news would collapse her bosom. He tried everything from hopeless to helpless to change her mind, though she was fixated on scratching the dust off the name. Dad! Are you going to read it again or not? Let me hear it now. Don't test my patience. Her anger spread, gained size, and widened like a forest fire.
Alright. Name is...
Yeah?
Some name, starting with S. Not much else is clear.
Just S? Is this a prank house or the kids' corner?
Wait. Why don't I take another closer look and let you know? Yeah, I can read an S. Then clarity falls. Let that go downhill while we go for a walk to the market and back. I bet I can outpace you.
Dad, I ask one thing, you say another. What are you trying to hide and why? Just spit out what's written on the freaking newspaper. Repeating like a parrot takes you nowhere.
Steve.
His disinclined tongue answered. Wasn't clear if he finished uttering the name, or if her ears assimilated what was hesitantly uttered with a stutter. But no sooner had he finished saying it than she pried the newspaper off his hand like a lizard rapidly retracting its tongue. Though the name and town were spelled out doubtlessly, it could still be a different person. Her Steve wasn't the only Steve on the planet. The answer to the dilemma was present on the paper too, in the picture that was printed below the name. She took the paper for the sole purpose of looking at the image. Turning and flipping and hurtling through the pages, the last page came and she saw the border of the photograph. Name, Steve, age, 22, town, Willowbree. She closed her eyes. The valiant mental fortitude to face potentially unfortunate sights didn't seem to be present in her. However, she equally despised the urge to avoid the photograph altogether.
Paige, may I?
Gary stretched his hand to confiscate the newspaper. Dad, won't you shut up? She resonated her vocal chambers. The sound reached the surface of stars and implied the end of time to weak-hearted angels. Gary got overwhelmed by fear and found a fitting abode in the corner of the hall. He sat down, having lost the guts to encounter further rage and lend a piece of his mind. The corner became his home, silence his language, restlessness his attire, and the unpredictability of Paige his food. Name, Steve. Age, 22. Town, Willowbree. A blend of dread and desire halted her again from moving forward, and hence she made up her mind about what was most probably going to be seen, and decided to descry it as quickly as possible. She shut the door to every other bodily sensation and opened her eyes. A minute passed, perhaps a couple. The hall turned into silence's dearest abode and the primary antagonist of sound. Pin-drop silence is a trivial ambience, but that particular aura made it feasible for the touch of a pin's tip against another tip to be exquisitely audible. Similar to how a silent heaven isn't permanent in rainy season, as rumbling bolts and boisterous jolts fill the sky, the quietness of the hall didn't last past the third minute. A sudden explosion of sound was heard. Gary's favorite mirror on the wall was missing. It was on the ground, shattered into pieces. What could Gary do if her red enraged eyes gestured him away every time he tried to step closer to her? Seeing the pieces shine back the reflection of her annoyed face angered her more and caused her to pick one up and crush it with her bare hand. Not minding the dripping blood, blinding pain, and the nature of the action, she continued to crush pieces of glass because the reflection staring at her resembled beasts cornering a clueless prey, destiny being the beasts and herself the clueless prey. Looking at her dad's special wooden chair nearby, she grabbed the legs, lifted the chair above her head, and violently slammed it down. Heaven closed its ears. Gary wasn't ashamed to admit to himself that he was scared of Paige. Scare, surprise, stress, and a slew of similar feelings came to the forefront together, holding each other's hands for protection.
Is she the one who shattered the mirror? Is she the one crushing glass with disregard for blood? Is she the one who broke the chair?
Asked Gary, with a face strained by wrinkles of worries. The same Gary who proudly proclaimed that she was his daughter now weirdly doubted if she was his daughter. Her anger wasn't soothed. She left the hall and went inside the kitchen, leaving her dad with the courage to escape the corner he was imprisoned in. The man who couldn't stand upright, let alone walk upright, crawled step by step towards the broken mess to pick up the broken chair leg and directed his gaze at the kitchen. He could enter, but the fear of getting hit by something she might toss at him gripped his heart and he conveniently stayed put. The chair leg in his hand was his idea of a weapon for defense. Justified anger, if prevails for unjustifiable periods, loses its skin and unleashes violence. What starts in anger must not end in danger. It was well known to old and mature Gary, which was one of the reasons he was reluctant to make a bold and blunt move to confront Paige's wrath. The unpredictability of anger is as flaky as a badly designed firecracker. It can burst or surprise the viewer with an unpleasant display of sparks. Her safety from the impulse of wanting to crack open some crazy was his foremost wish. He wished that the roof might descend on his cranium but not a scratch should befall his daughter. He ambled in toddler steps and approached the kitchen with worries taking precedence. Before the conclusion of the third step, his foot was still in the air. A destructive sound shook the floor and threatened his foot to stay afloat. A vessel as big as the cooker, maybe that's what it was dropped to the floor like a comet hurtling down to earth. The mere echo of the drop had the house in shiver and shambles, and the cherubic page rendered the floor tile in the kitchen such that it deserved its own ceramic coffin. Salt, water, flour, they were all on the floor. Poor salt shakers, no longer cute to the eyes, stayed in the kitchen and so did Paige silently. Gary hesitated to walk in, and while he was buffering in thoughts, she came out. "Dad, what do you want?" she asked with a smile that could overthrow the gloom of overcast weather, without any trace of the cacophony from moments before. The mirror lay on the ground, cracked and crushed. The wooden chair was mangled, scattered, and shattered. The cooker was damaged like a misshapen cup. Gary found himself choking for words at the sight of a girl who acted like an unaccountable baby.
Paige?
Hesitation and confusion blocked his mouth. "Dad, you asked me something."
I didn't ask anything.
The bloody scratches on Paige's hand glared in his eyes and he swallowed his words. He couldn't speak. "Stop playing around! You asked me this very morning!"
I don't understand. What are you talking about?
Tears and shivers took over. "Some things never change." She laughed in likeness to a spotless kindergarten kid. You either act goofy or poke me for fun. Ask again, I'll happily answer.
It's.
Are you going to ask or not?
Yes, yes, I am.
Fear propelled the reply out of his frozen voice box. At last, ask away!
How was your hand?
Hmm, someone's stubborn at playing games and not willing to let go. I guess I have to remind the question myself. The question she spoke of and the intention in her head were complete mysteries. That, combined with the abrupt change in mentality, made Gary ponder over possibilities of his daughter going insane. He got himself ready with folded hands to listen to her.
Ask, Paige.
I've never seen Steve. Where's he hidden? Didn't you ask me this very morning? A jolt of current can set your head ablaze and get it to work if you like. Recall?
Yes, I asked today.
Guess what? The longing won't be here for long because I'm going to show you his picture. Come closer. What's with the strange stare? Daughters resemble nocturnal robbers with a pistol in hand? Do I give off such vibes? Am I scary? I swear you make me crack up, Dad. Come closer. Well, I'll come over there. Quickly and cheerfully she hopped to Gary with a veinless chirp in her smiling voice. Her pace did not comfort him, but only raised his heart in disturbing fashion. What if she did something alarming in the same pace as she came, in a similar shift of mood? What if disaster occurs? She paused in her tracks and looked him in the eye for a sweet second. Without any warning, she swiftly ducked. Panic reached the peak and Gary experienced emotions untold. He was certain she was going to pick up something and beat him to pulp. As he swallowed his saliva with silent whispers and indecipherable prayers, she got up with the newspaper in hand. What fueled his fear actually went in his favor. There was no weapon in her hand, just the newspaper which she flipped speedily with her vision probing each page without leftovers and came to the last page. Dad! Here! Look!
Paige.
What page? Saying my name doesn't earn you quarters. See here, you were so upset for not having seen him. Here he is now in your favorite newspaper. It couldn't be clearer.
Paige.
His mouth gobbled up every word from popping up. Misery shot up and stirred his head into a dreary swamp. The misery of having to see his daughter's beloved lover for the first time through the news of his demise. Dad! Look over here! Hello, need I toss a burning matchstick inside your shirt? Attention, please!
Yes, I'm looking.
It is written here in bold letters. Name Steve, age 22, town Willowbree, catch that photograph underneath, my skin tone, fluffy eyebrows like mine, the roundness in his face, not even his nose is different. How handsome.
Yes, undoubtedly.
Aren't we a super pair?
Absolutely.
Not enough juice to buy the statement. Stress it more and say it convincingly. Aren't we a super pair?
Yeah, I promise the two of you comprise a great couple.
Then why? Dad, why? Why did he run a chainsaw through our love and leave for heaven and leave me here in a bloody mess? Waves and fountains of tears slushed from her eye portals and she leaned on her dad's shoulder, crying out loud with no imminent reprieve. Gary was marginally happy that her fit of rage turned into low spirits, that her anger subsided and grief surfaced. At the same time, he couldn't stand the scene of tears erupting from Paige's childlike eyes.
Paige, don't you cry. Don't you dare cry till I'm alive and well. You shouldn't.
Dad, you're here. I know you're here, but he isn't. What could I possibly have done to earn this misfortune? Why did he leave me?
My dear Paige, my dearest Paige, God is an imbecile if he finds fault on your side. You're only a child, too innocent for a disaster as this one. This is unfair.
He didn't call me for 2 days. I thought he was busy or mad at me, but look at this! Look at this! He has arrived home as a piece of freaking depressing news. What can I do?
Paige, don't cry. Tons of news come in the paper and half are lies at best forwarded with agendas. Call him yourself and ask what happened.
Paige suddenly felt a radiant glow latch itself onto her face. Was there a chance the news wasn't what it seemed to convey? What if it was a devastating blunder that fostered a false sense of dissonance? What if Steve's picture in the obituary was a terrible misprint? What if he was alive? Possibilities of the sort subdued her mind and she ran to the kitchen with the phone in hand. Gary gathered the shattered pieces of the mirror into a pile in a dustpan and pushed the broken chair to the corner out of harm's way. He prayed for Paige to hear pleasant news, and she came out of the kitchen running.
Paige? What is it?
I tried all his numbers. Twice. He didn't pick up. He doesn't have any parent either. One of his relatives answered the phone.
And? What did they say?
There was nothing wrong with Steve's health. He was in fact doing spick and span. But yesterday evening,
He died from a snake bite! What? A snake bite? You heard it!
Willowbury reeks of antiques and second-handedness. It's still a village somehow recognized as a town. Its backwater state can be found in the fact nobody even reads newspapers there. That's why Steve took the chance to work in his hometown to develop the place. But he has altogether left this space.
Don't cry, Paige. I'll cry if you do.
He comforted her and patted her head, resting on his shoulder. What am I supposed to do now, Dad? My life is a goner without him! She screamed in his ear without lifting her head off the comfort of his shoulder. It reminded her that a girl would seek the warmth of her boyfriend in times of grief, whereas she was seeking her dad's comfort to grieve the loss of her boyfriend. There was nothing in the whole wide world to suggest that her life wasn't a goner. A life without love is the fate of many, and they tread with loneliness and longing. She who tastes love and is then forbidden dreads existence in pain.
Don't say so! Goner and loner are words you should not speak till the day I breathe. If we attain everything we desire, then what is God for? Some clinch their cravings while others die without trying, and it doesn't mean life should come to a standstill. Listen to me. Rest your eyes and we'll talk later.
How can you say it so easily, so casually? It hurts! I can't take it no more, and I honestly don't want to. I see him when I close my eyes. I see him when I look at my phone. I see him wherever I look. I say this is life where he is nowhere. I don't want this.
I know what it's like. I too can relate to the gut-wrenching agony of losing a loved one. Had I died when your mother died, what would have happened to you? She wished for my well-being and yours. It's a promise I fulfill to this day. I wish for your well-being and you must live for that.
My mind is going places I can't handle. It hurts!
Paige, you're a teacher. What would you do if a teen comes to you with suicidal thoughts due to a failure in love? The advice you'll scoop up from your heart's wisdom applies just as much to you.
Cut this preaching now! Do you know how much he has done for me? Years of selfless favors. He poured out his heart and now ripped mine apart. How can I forget all that? Gary escorted Paige by her hand to the couch, made her sit, and he settled next to her. He didn't need to say a word. Paige automatically gravitated to his shoulder and yearned for peace like flowing water seeking a level of balance. The torture of losing love doesn't disappear like a dying flame. Memories and moments come marching forth, splitting the heart and hurting furthermore. I once took leave in college. It was Steve who answered my attendance as my proxy by mimicking my voice, and he got suspended for a week.
Since when did God favor good-hearted folk?
Remember when I suffered from viral fever and had to bunk classes for a week?
Yes.
All those 7 days, Steve took care of writing notes for me, and exams immediately ensued. I would have failed without that help of his, and I never got the chance to repay. I finished college by his grace, and now by the curse of I wonder who, he is dead! My life is finished!
Paige, calm down, dear. Nobody can leave the walls of our hearts as long as we remember them.
For my birthday, he somehow tracked down my favorite Stephen King novel, the first and rarest edition of one of his bestsellers.
It's alright. It's alright.
Dad, wait a minute.
What?
You?
Paige?
You? Was it you? You did this?